Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jan Baba Ivadari. Yasodanandana Rajanaranjana. Yasodanandana Rajanaranjana. Yasodananda Rajanaranjana. Yamuna Tiravana Chari. Yamuna Tiravana Chari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Kunja Bihari. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Rani. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Rani. Jaya Gora Nitai, Shri Gora Nitai. Jai Gora Nitai, Shri Gora Nitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Gurudeva, Gurudev, Jaya Gurudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Vyasam
Tato Jaya Mudiraye
Tato Jayam Udiliye
Nasta Praeshu Abhadresu
Nasta Praeshu Abhadresu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki.
That went off.
No, no.
That was the last one.
Yeah, what happened?
Start over.
Missed the third one.
Oh, sorry.
Krishna. Let me find it real quick. Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki
Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, Parikshit Curse by a Brahmana Boy. Text number 20. Okay, word for word. Etavatalam
Etavatalam
Tanu Suchitena
Suchitena
Etavatalam Tanu Suchitena
Etavatalam Nanu Suchitena
Guner
Guner
Asamya
Samya
Nati Sayanasya
Nati Sayamasya
Hitvetaram
Hitvetaram
Hatayato
Hatayato
Vibhutir
Vibhutir
Hitvetaran Patayato Vibhutir
Hitvetaram
Pratayato Vibhuti
Yashangri
Yasangri
Renum
Renum
Jushate
Yushate
Nabipso
Navitsaho
Yashangri Renum Jushate Nabipso
Yasangri Renum Justate Navitso
Etavatalam Nanu Suchitena
Etavatalam Nanu Suchitena
Gunera Samya Nati Sayanasya
Gunera Samya Nati Sayanasya
Hitvetaran Patayato Vibhutir
Hitvetaran Patayato Vibhutir
Yashangri Renum Jushate Nabipso
Yasyanangri Yasate Naviso
Etavatalam Nanu Suchitena
Etavatalam Nanu Suchitena
Gunera Samya Nati Sayanasya
Gunera Samya Nati Sayanasya
Hitvetaran Patayato Vibhutir
Hitvetaram Pachakato Vibhutir
Yashangri Renum Jushate Nabipso
Yasangri Renum Jusate Nabipso
Etavalatam Krishna Etavatalam Nanu Suchitena
Etavatalam Nanu Suchitena
Gunera Samya Nati Sayanasya
Gunera Samya Nati Samyanasya
Hitvetaran Patayato Vibhutir
Hitvetaram Patayato Vibhutir
Yashangri Renum Jushate Nabipso
Yasangri Renum Justate Naviso Etavatalam Nanu Suchitena
Etavatalam Nanu Suchitena
Gunera Samya Nati Samyanasya
Gunera Samya Nati Sayanasya
Hitvetaram Pratyayato Vibhutir
Hitvetaran Patayato Vibhutir
Yasangri Renu Satena Bhiso
Yashangrirenum Jushatena Bhikso.
John, you want to try?
Oh, I couldn't figure out where we were, so I wasn't able to. But I'll give it a shot.
Thank you.
Stavatalam nanus setena
Ekavatam Nanusuchitena
Gunera samyanati sanyanasya
Gunera Samyanati Sayanasya
Bhaktivan karyato vibhutir
Ekavatam Karyato Vibhutir
Yashangririnam justena Bhikso
Yashangrirenum Jushatena Bhikso.
Tavatalam Nanusuchitena
Ekavatam Nanusuchitena
Gunara Samyanati Sanyanasya
Gunera Samyanati Sayanasya
Itveteran Parityanto Vibhutir
Ekavatam Karyato Vibhutir
Yashangrirenum Justatena Bitso
Yashangrirenum Jushatena Bhiso.
Okay, the word for word. Etavata. So far. Alam. Unnecessary. Nanu. If at all. Suchitena. By description. Gunai. By attribute. Asamya. Immeasurable. Anatisayanasya. Of one who is unexcelled. Hitwa. Leaving aside. Itaran. Heavens. Patayataha. Of those who ask for. Vibhuti. Favor of the goddess of fortune. Yasha. One whose. Hungry. Feet. Renum. Dust. Jushate. Serves. Anabipso. Of one who is unwilling. Translation, please repeat. It is now ascertained that he, the personality of Godhead, is unlimited, and there is none equal to him. Consequently, no one can speak of him adequately. Great demigod cannot obtain the favor of the goddess of fortune. Even by prayer. But this very goddess renders service unto the Lord. Although he is unwilling to have such service. Srila Prabhupada's Divine Purport. Personality of Godhead, of the Parameshwara, Parabrahman, according to the Shrutis, has nothing to do. He has no equal, nor does anyone excel him. He has unlimited potency, and his very action is carried out systematically in his natural and perfect ways. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in himself, and he has nothing to accept from anyone else, including the great demigods like Brahma. Others ask for the favor of the goddess of fortune, and despite such prayers, she declines to award such favors. but still she renders service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although he has nothing to accept from her. The Personality of Godhead in his Gobadakshayi Vishnu feature begets Brahma, the first created person in the material world, from his navel lotus stem, and not in the womb of the goddess of fortune, who is eternally engaged in his service. These are some of the instances of his complete independence and perfection. That he has nothing to do does not mean that he is impersonal. He is transcendentally so full of inconceivable potencies that simply by his willing, everything is done without physical or personal endeavor. He is called, therefore, Yogeshwara, of the Lord of all mystic powers. Thus ends the Bhagavatam purport to the 20th sloka of the 18th chapter of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Etavatalam nanusuchitena gunera samjana tisayana sha hitvetaran partayato vibhutir yashangri renum jushate nabipso. It is now ascertained that he, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is unlimited. And there is nothing and there is none equal to him. Consequently, no one can speak of him adequately. Great demigods cannot obtain the favor of the goddess of fortune even by prayers. But this very goddess renders service unto the Lord, although he is unwilling to have such service. Mukam karoti vachalam pungam langayate girim yakripa tamaham vande shigurun dinataranam paramananda madhavam Shri Chaitanya Iswaram. So although we cannot speak adequately about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we can certainly speak because there's more information describing him than anything else. And there's lots of information. But despite this vast amount of info concerning him, he remains hidden from all the fools and rascals. Without him removing the veil of Maya or illusion, no one can understand him. I mean, just look around the world. I mean, people simply cannot understand him, even though he's the most comprehensible. He may be inconceivable and unlimited, but he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's unlimited data about him. We can understand his planet. We can understand his places of residence. We can understand his expansions. We can understand his friends. We can understand what he likes to do. We can understand things he's done in the past. But it all remains hidden from the vast amount of people in the world. And they worship him as God. And only the most erudite theologians speak about what that God is. It becomes like a subject for scholars. Otherwise, people go to worship under the direction of some trained and educated minister who leads them in prayers and in glorification of the Lord. and instruction on rendering service to Him, pleasing Him through pious activity, and simply submission to Him all over the world. But yet, despite some effort of devotion, because the world has been indoctrinated by Kali, people remain simply fools and rascals. We're given for pleasure so much drink and drugs. We're given vile food to eat from slaughtered creatures. We're told that there's no greater happiness than sexual relationships, to the extent that people are constantly trying to sell us something by telling us it's going to sexually make us better. And although we're forced to work like a donkey very hard, then they take away our money by a game of chance. We're so foolish that we work so hard for some money, and then we are enticed to play a game of chance where we think we'll get more, but we lose it all. So this is the misfortune of the world. But yet, every week we'll go to our place of worship and pray for the Lord to make us better, to somehow ever help us to achieve some victory and transcend our sins and attain to His kingdom. So, this is the sad condition of the world. We make some prayers, but yet our dilemma doesn't go away because of our actions. And no one tells us anything. And no one can figure out what to do until the pure devotee shows up on the scene and begins to describe the science of devotional service. That yes, there's glorification of God. And, He teaches something that's not unknown, but certainly completely forgotten in this part of the world. He did that over 50 years ago. People took to some chanting, but then immediately he began to describe that you can't chant purely. You can't please the personality of Godhead as long as we are engaged in ill karma, activities detrimental to ourselves. So therefore, give up this slaughter of innocent creatures. Give up this illicit sexuality, this crazy sexuality. Give up trying to find happiness just through illicit sexual activity. Give up losing your hard-earned money in the gambling casinos or in different bets and games. Give up trying to transcend by taking pills and liquor. This stuff's not good for you. Despite an advertising industry doing its best to sell it to us, and people raking in all of our dollars simply to keep us in Maya, Prabhupada had to speak out against it. And so when we listen and we make some humble attempt to follow Prabhupada, because we follow Prabhupada because he is simply Krishna's pure devotee, he is simply surrendered to Krishna, he's trying to carry out the orders of his spiritual master to take Krishna consciousness around the world for the good of the people, despite the people's intoxication. simply take it around the world and give it to them. Prabhupada doing his best to do that. And by Krishna's mercy, Prabhupada was able to attract some boys and girls, and immediately he engaged them in helping him. And, the movement went. Just like Prabhupada's spiritual master desired, completely around the world. For everybody to take advantage. But although it's circumambulated the whole world, just like the equator, and it went to most major cities, there's unlimited opportunity to serve Prabhupada by taking Krishna consciousness to the masses. Because the vast amount of them still know nothing about Krishna consciousness. The vast amount of them are still simply puppets for Kali Yuga, being driven by this madness to satisfy our senses through temporary means that only bond us to some sort of ill karma. Consequently, we find more and more people simply put into jails because they can't control themselves, and a system of justice that doesn't do much for them. All over the world, it's a crime the way people are treated, practically speaking. There's just people fighting with one another over religious ideologies. I mean, how ignorant can you be? Over an ideology, you want to kill one another. Over politics, they go insane. That even though there's sufficient food to feed everyone, they can't manage to do it. People starve. And everybody's trying to make a bunch of money so they can be happy, or their family can be happy, or their country can be happy. In this way, there's intense competition or greed to control. And yet, Srila Prabhupada's movement is there, simply trying to pass out the mercy in the form of Prabhupada's books in Pasada. We are so fortunate to be able to have taken advantage and to be taken advantage of it, and helping Prabhupada to distribute this mercy. What else can help this place? Prabhupada saw this place as burning down, and that it was urgent that we do something about it. It's on fire. It's amazing, during Prabhupada's time, the things that were going on in the world were capturing everyone. I mean, if we think that politics is tough now, during Prabhupada's time it was really tough. India fighting for its independence, World War I, World War II. I mean, there were big people involved all over the world. And then after Indians' independence, it's amazing, the people involved, prominent people who worked like asses to try to make a country out of what had been a colony in the British Raj. Ultimately divided into one nation, divided into three, and prominent, powerful people trying to make it work. But yet every one of them dragged off the stage. And out of all of them, all these big people during that time, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, the only one we can actually say, is successfully doing something for the complete benefit of the world. And actually, lived a life whereby he attained some following that was respectful and satisfied with his message. So, Prabhupada wrote thousands and thousands, if not millions of words describing Krishna. And all we have to do is hear it, to have our brain purified and to change into a devotee. I mean, all of us were practically speaking walking around as sense enjoyers, trying to derive some pleasure from our activities, some sense pleasure from our activities, either sensually or mentally. But by coming in contact with Prabhupada's books, everything changes. We suddenly understand that we're just an actor, and the body is just a suit, and God or Krishna is the director, and our pleasure comes from serving Him. Until we can connect with Him and listen to Him, and how can we be happy if we're foolishly taking a part given to us by providence, a suit given to us by providence, and all we're doing is trying to enjoy the suit? It's like a man or a woman trying to enjoy their clothes. How foolish can you be? The clothes are only decorations to help us do what we have to do in life. To either keep us warm or to decorate us in such a way that we're acceptable. To give us some protection on our feet or our head, whatever, in the wind or the rain. They're not to just be enjoyed like it's ourself. The same with our vehicles, whether it be a plane, a ship, or a car. They're actually meant for following the direction. They're meant to be used according to the direction of the director, not just for our pleasure. But yet, we take everything and we serve so many ordinary people, so many employers, so many politicians, so many philosophers who don't know the absolute truth and even deny it. But if we take everything that we have and we just use it to serve the director, how can we do that when that contact has been lost? We don't see the Paramatma, practically speaking. We can't hear the Paramatma. Everything is dark, and all sorts of things are spoken in our head that, who God knows where the Paramatma's voice is. So that's the importance of the pure devotee. He is Krishna's representative. So Prabhupada's words are most important. They're teaching us what the Paramatma is saying. They're teaching us to surrender to Krishna. They're teaching us to be a devotee. And although we may have been just an ordinary fig, like some sort of insect in the whole mix of the multitude of living entities running around the earth, by the power of Prabhupada's words, such an insignificant creature can become a devotee. It's absolutely amazing. It shows the power of a pure devotee. It's like a doctor who comes to town and cures some epidemic. I mean, the people will put him on their shoulders, walk him through the town, they'll cheer him. He'll be fed. He'll be given a room for the rest of his life. He saved the town. So similarly, Prabhupada is saving the world. How else can people become devotees? They don't understand. They can't figure it out on their own. Krishna is hidden by his mystic power. He even says that in the Bhagavad Gita. For the foolish and unintelligent, I am never revealed. I am not revealed to those who are not austere or disciplined. Why does he have to reveal himself to such fools and rascals? They'll just try to enjoy him. What to speak about if they see his consort? They'll try to enjoy her, like Robin, because they're demons, practically speaking. They possess the demoniac nature, lust, greed, and anger, pride, conceit, and arrogance. Just vibrate out of their veins. It's just a world of malechas and yavanas fighting with one another. Why would he reveal himself to such people? That by the mercy of this pure devotee, these very same people become devotees. And then what do? They do what their spiritual master asked them to do just what he's doing. Give Krishna consciousness to everyone. And they make the endeavor to do it. When Prabhupada left, there were only so many devotees. After Prabhupada's gone, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of times more devotees. Because his disciples continued to serve him. No one gave up. No one went back to their former ways, practically speaking, in mass. But the devotees continued to humbly try to serve Prabhupada. Despite the faults and difficulties and conflicts and everything else, the devotees continued to serve Prabhupada. And look at the result. Things continue to grow. Just as Prabhupada wanted. He wanted it to grow, and then somehow or other, for us to continue to make it stable. Despite the difficulties, when things grow, there becomes a lot of instability. Because things, are growing without, maybe without the foundation being suitable enough to hold it all up. So the International Society for Krishna Consciousness has had to grow. And we see it growing, and we see the institution, devotees having to put their brains and their backs and everything else into making it solid to help hold up the world, to make the world a better place. So this Krishna consciousness movement will change the world. The politicians will one day become good Kshatriyas, wanting to protect the world, like Maharaj Parikshit. The Brahmanas will espouse the science of Krishna consciousness. The Vaishyas will not make wealth for their own enjoyment, but for the good of the world, and they'll share it with everyone, just like the stomach shares all the food with the whole body. And the Sudras will work enthusiastically to make the world a nice Krishna conscious place. So of course that's the prediction of Lord Chaitanya, that's our dream. But it's not our dream, it's Lord Chaitanya's dream. It's Prabhupada's dream. We're just dreaming with them. We've just entered into their dream. We've just become one of their devotees by their mercy. And so we have to dream with them and, give this Krishna consciousness to others. That will, become our qualification. I mean, just in yesterday's verse, we heard how, people born into the most disqualified situations by just chanting Krishna's name. Everything changes. So who are we to take up such a great mission? We're not significant. But, Krishna possesses all mystic power. We're just giving Krishna. It's Krishna who's changing everyone and changing everything. It's the power of him. When any old fool or rascal, gets that name, their life becomes changed. I mean, otherwise, how is it that someone is frail? His mother Prishni can go into the infamous French Quarter and chant Krishna's names. and help deliver people. How could it be possible? How could it be possible that Tamal could come here and help us? Only by Providence's arrangements. How is it that, any of us have become a devotee? Except by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga. So that's part of Lord Krishna's great mystic power. His power just isn't in exhibiting some Kshatriya prowess of being able to kill so many enemies. It's the power of Lord Chaitanya to deliver so many people. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would simply walk, people would become delivered. Just seeing him, people would become delivered. What to speak, if you got to hear him cry or sing, people would become delivered. People couldn't understand him, but he just changed them. They just knew that he was him. He is Allah. He is Krishna. He's that person that can save us all. They knew it just by the power of his devotion. So, we're so lucky to be a part of, Prabhupada's great Krishna conscious ministry that is saving the world. We have to have faith in Prabhupada's books and, distribute these books. It's only by the power of these books that people have become devotees, practically speaking. These books are not ordinary. They are none different from Krishna. Just like the mantra is none different from Krishna, Prabhupada's books are none different from Krishna. And this Ekadasi, which is, golly, is it this Tuesday coming?
Tuesday.
Huh?
Tuesday, right?
There's something else going on Tuesday too.
The event of Bhagavatam.
Yeah, but there's something else happening on that Ekadasi. So anyway, this Tuesday is the advent of Krishna's Bhagavad Gita. Devotees are distributing Bhagavad Gitas all over the world in honor of Prabhupada's Gita, in honor of Lord Krishna's Gita. We had to assist in that. Any comment, question?
Well, I was thinking about, in the beginning of the class, you were mentioning about that time India was struggling. And, one of Prabhupada's points was that who's going to listen to us? Because we're a dependent nation and we're not a very wealthy nation. But by his preaching, places like Vrindavan and Mayapur are becoming, benefiting from his preaching in economic ways. Obviously the spiritual benefit is much more, is also extremely profound, but his preaching has actually affected the economy of India in a much more profound way than anything that follows Mahatma Gandhi did.
Or Nehru or Indira Gandhi.
Yeah, well, they were the followers of Mahatma Gandhi, But they actually deviated from what Mahatma Gandhi wanted. Nehru was a traitor to him. He sold out.
Yeah, it was so much politics. So much politics.
He wasn't interested in weaving cloth. He wanted industry.
Right. But that's what the world wanted too. So.
But it didn't help India. But Prabhupada's preaching helped India.
But Prabhupada's preaching helped India. But if they would have just followed Mahatma Gandhi's ways, try to understand that India got most of everything when it was partitioned, because partitioning of India meant also a sharing of the British Empire's wealth that existed in India. That included armies, industry, money in the bank, so many things. India got the vast share of it. What Pakistan got was that from 1857, with the revolt of the Indian Army, which was made up primarily of Bengalis, because the British started in Bengal, at Kolkata. So then, those that remained loyal to fight against the revolt were Punjabis and Sikhs. So after 1857, the British recruited primarily from Punjab and amongst the Sikhs. And they had built up this very formal army that assisted them tremendously in World War I and World War II. So that army went primarily to Pakistan because they got where most of the recruiting went on. So Pakistan didn't have a lot of things that India had. They didn't have buildings. They couldn't put the capital in Lahore because it was only 100 miles from the border. And they feared that was their arch enemy was in India. So they had to put it initially in Karachi. So there was just so many government things they didn't have to make a government. But what they did have was a powerful army. A sophisticated army that had been there with a tradition and a means of providing for the soldiers and for their leaders. So if India wouldn't have been strong militarily and economically, and would have just been a country of agriculturists, it may have become united again under Pakistan, which had become a country based upon Islamic ideology. You have to remember that before the British took control, the Muslims practically were controlling all India. There were very few independent Hindu empires, or not empires, but realms. There were in Maharashtra, there were those I forget their name. Tamal knows what do they call them? The people, Shivaji and all of them, they were Marathas.
Yeah, Shivaji,
Marathas. They were, and they were broken up into all kinds of clans. Yeah. And the clans were also always fighting amongst themselves. And, now and then they'd have some powerful leader that would sort of unite them, and of course they would fight against them. The Muslims, they were just constant fighting, but most of the whole subcontinent was controlled by various Muslim sultans, with the Mughal Empire being the most powerful of all of them. So, it was in the blood for them to try to control the whole subcontinent. So we have to see it also as some sort of arrangement by Providence that, initially, India didn't try to establish the most simple and pious life. They were dealing with the whole world, so Nehru had to also deal with, making an army. He had to make commerce. He made all kinds of, certainly made mistakes, but he was something that Pakistan didn't have. He was a stable leader. He was the one who led them through independence and continued to live. He was there, of course, with Gandhi and some other powerful leaders like so-and-so Patel. Gandhi died, a year or so after independence he was assassinated. Patel died 3 years later. Nehru lasted 20 years before he died. In Pakistan, Jinnah died like 2 years after establishing Pakistan. And there begun a tremendous fight for power. That was, if you just look at the leaders, it's like one after another, whereas in India it was a lot more stable. Just a lot more stable. So anyway, that's just, what happened materially. So my point is that there were things being also controlled by providence that to further in the future, we can see it as to further this Krishna consciousness movement in the future. Now, our Krishna consciousness movement is, making, tremendous advances in India. Things are, of course, always difficult in Pakistan. They're always, in Bangladesh, we're doing really great things, but, it's difficult because of the Muslim government. And then around the world, the movement's growing, making all sorts of advancements. So all we can do is continue to support Prabhupada and try to establish not only the book distribution, but also his forum communities, which is, which takes in all of that simple living and high thinking philosophy and teachings, the type of economy that Prabhupada wanted, self-reliant, based upon agriculture rather than on oil, and living happily, chanting Hare Krishna, but at the same time preaching strongly that we can unite all these fools and rascals who are fighting amongst one another. I mean, why is it that our world, all these politicians have to be at one another's throat? So who's going to purify that scene? So that has to also be our Krishna consciousness movement. Otherwise, how can our forum communities ever be protected anywhere? As soon as they want something, they'll just come in and take it. So we have to purify them too. I mean, just like when Krishna appeared, because there were so many powerful armies on the earth. How many powerful armies on the earth today? I mean, the Chinese army consists of almost how many people? It's definitely over millions. So, it's a very heavy place that requires, powerful preaching. And, we have to have faith that Lord Chaitanya is going to make an instrument out of the devotees to accomplish things that seem highly unlikely and practically impossible. But, it can be done by the power of this Krishna consciousness movement, just like Prabhupada was a success. I mean, he had all kinds of doubts coming here. Who's going to listen to me? He knew what these people were like. I mean, they've been dealing with the British, since the 1700s. They had to deal with the Muslims. He knew what it was all like. How are they going to listen to him? I mean, they had already characterized, Hinduism in a certain ill light. And yet Prabhupada had to go preach amongst them, right in the heart of New York City, one of the most prominent cities in the world. And yet he met with success by Krishna's mercy. Yeah, Jesse.
So, speaking a bit about politics, it reminds me of this. I'd been looking up, for some reason or other, maybe it's the stuff that's going on in the news with our current president. It reminded me of some quotes I had heard from Srila Prabhupada about President Nixon back in the 70s. And so I found this one really nice letter that I can share with you real quick. So he was writing to Amarendra Prabhu. He says, it's about a page long anyway. He says, please accept my blessings. I'm very much pleased that you are expanding your position at Gainesville Temple. Especially I'm glad that you are entering politics to try for city commissioner position. This will be a good opportunity to preach widely and sell our literatures, so take advantage. But one thing, our platform must be very simple, that there is no other sacrifices necessary for the well-being of the citizens save and except the Sankirtan Yagya. Regularly, the town citizens, everyone can congregate and chant Hare Krishna and hold festivals of celebrations continually with widespread distribution of tasty foodstuffs. Who will not be attracted by such a program? This is our simple method, nothing else. Any other political programs proposed by politicians will simply spoil everything. Actual government means to give the citizens the highest welfare, that is, spiritual fulfillment, and access they should provide to obtain without any difficulty the perfection of this human form of life. Otherwise, government means democracy, so now instead of one king who could rule piously, there are thousands of kings, each one interested in taking only some taxes for his spending, not for welfare. Nowadays, politician means pickpocket, fooling the people who are innocent into voting them and then picking their pockets, because in 2 or 4 years they know they may be replaced by some other king, so they take as much as they can. The people are innocent. We have seen this everywhere, even in Russia. It is only these rascal leaders who have spoiled everything by fooling the people for their personal advantage. So I am very much serious that you all boys and girls should expose these Nixons and remove them. There is ample scope for protest in the Sankirtan movement, and you yourselves be present. That is my hope for saving the misled mankind from total chaos. Popularize this movement in the world, but better to avoid talk of slaughterhouses, illicit sex, etc., and give the public instead the positive approach to life of Krishna consciousness. Kindly keep me informed how your election comes out, etc., etc. So it's really interesting. A couple of points that stick out to me. He's basically saying that in this, in the campaign, that he should only stick to the platform of Sankirtan Yagya and not talk about implementing any other social or governmental legislation, which is pretty interesting, especially after we've just read in the 17th chapter of First Canto, all this stuff about very strongly opposing illicit activities. But here he's basically saying, just emphasize in politics, just emphasize Sankirtan Yagya. And then as well, it mentions at the end, he says, better to avoid talk of slaughterhouses, illicit sex, etc. My understanding is that is also when he's talking about in the public sphere, in this preaching, in the campaign, in the political campaign. So I don't think he's saying avoid those topics in Bhagavatam class in the temple or something.
Just that they certainly won't vote for us or give as much credence if we're speaking out about all the things that they're addicted to like that constantly.
Right.
But if we're just encouraging the chanting, what I took note of was to have festivals and feed everyone sumptuously. There's over 53,000 homeless people in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And you can imagine if we just went and had a festival in different places in the city and had free, nice prasadam. And there's more homeless people in New York City. Los Angeles is not the most in the country; it's the second most. New York City has more. So we could, be distributing so much prasadam and chanting and people coming, and that would solve their eating problem.
They do that occasionally I know that we had the Food for Life programs in so many cities, but I know when I was in Los Angeles for the Rath Yatra, they served out, the year that I was there, they served out something like 10,000 free plates of prasadam. And that was my main service at the Rath Yatra, was helping with that. They had many tents where they were like selling prasadam, and then they have one tent where it was just free prasadam for anybody who came up. And there were a lot of homeless people who came and were taking amply. It was very nice.
And there's a lot of room for expanding prasadam distribution and chanting public chanting. Wow. Yeah, it seems like these places really need the Sankirtan movement all over the world. And you can find that even in the Silicon Valley, where there's so many homeless people there too. They just can't afford any housing. And everything's tough. So if we're there chanting and distributing prasadam, it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, Srila Prabhupada, good job.
Guys.